Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions. And those my beloved, mighty companions become more and more beloved with each moment, don't they? To be so in devotion with each other. And it's so inspiring as everyone's looking and hearing Jesus talk to them, and Jesus is telling me this and that. I'll tell you what, this rocks this world. It's such a great demonstration of exactly what he says. We can all hear him. We can all hear him. Thank you, Jesus. We can hear you. And yeah, the expressions that are coming out on our little message group where everyone's so in, really listening and really discovering that what he's saying to us is just so dead on. And looking at denial, it's so quick. It's so beautiful. And then beings are joining and calling to join. It's so great. It's so great to be together in this. We're going all the way as far as Jesus will take us into supreme happiness. I'm in. So I'm very grateful for the mighties who are joining. We're going to have like our joining circles too. It just keeps extending out where really the beings that are so devoted to this looking, and we can just expand that circle of providing. Well, it's for us, really. It's really for us. It's opportunities every time we join to just be in truth together. Join as light and start with the light and then see what's true from there. And he's showing us the power, why he says to join with your brother. When we come together and the ego can't maintain its lack of content. So yeah, this is just really, really great. So Sarah had written about this particular passage from A Course in Miracles. And so I thought, okay, let's just really ask Jesus what this means together. And hear what the divine light, if I didn't lose it already. Here. Okay. If I can find it, it'll be in purpose. Okay. So she brought up, it was we were talking about, Jesus was talking about sexuality, and we were sharing, okay, here's what he's saying in the chapter on sexuality, and it came up that, okay, well, what about this passage here that says the following? Suppose a brother insists on having you do something you think you do not want to do. His very insistence should tell you that he believes salvation lies in it. If you insist on refusing and experience a quick response of opposition, you are believing that your salvation lies in not doing it. So he's pointing to the engagement in the argument. See, this is the argument of the world, to be in opposition. Someone wants to do something. He's telling you to watch your reactions. When someone brings up, and this is a really, really great place here. For instance, I'll give an example. And I was watching this little play in consciousness myself it was like, seemingly worked informed with Jesus about food and food preferences and all this stuff. And then so someone would mention food. It was sort of like, well, you'd want to say, well, you just wanted to be in opposition when they say, yeah, I'm on a salt-free diet because it's healthier. See, and there would be, it's like, well, I'm not doing that because, like kind of like I know better now because I can see that there's no causality. And that's missing the point totally. The point is to notice our reactions when another being is saying something, and do we go in opposition to it? Are we in opposition to it? No, that's not. It's to look at the reaction itself to see where we're still identified. Because the part of us that reacts to any situation is a piece of personal identity remaining, right? That's the twig, it's the twitch. So he's pointing out he's really pointing directly at spiritual arrogance is what, you know, too, as well. Oh, I know better than you. And it's just an opportunity to look at directly with Jesus, and we're all hearing Jesus's voice. So we can all go, okay, what's true underneath this? See, the ego's first thing is to one up. He's showing us a place where arguments show up. The I know better than you. But there's no you, there's no other. So he's showing us where the otherness is. And you'll start to watch that in consciousness, that ping. We call it the ping. Something arises in consciousness, and you'll just, a whole story will all of a sudden, it will mushroom out like a cloud of why that's wrong, and or why that's not spiritually correct. Or, you know, the mind will just go on a tangent of why, you know, whatever they're doing is magic. For instance, we'll use that. You know, somebody's taking a drug for something, and it's like, well, that's magic. And no, you know, it's still, he's pointing to that, it still remains in the play of consciousness. See, does the light oppose anything? The light just is. So there's what is, and then there's Jesus. There's Jesus advising us. So the first thing with any quote unquote reaction is to ask for a miracle to see what's true. He's merely pointing out that a quick response of opposition, he's pointing out where we still have beliefs below the subconscious mind that something appearing in consciousness is true. So there's still a piece of personal identity in there. So he's saying that what we're trying to do is make a brother wrong. See, that's why he says, don't make your brother wrong, because you're making yourself wrong. There's no brother to make wrong. There's no one out there. In the light of divine being, is there someone out there to make wrong? So there's specialness in it. I know better than you. And as soon as I know better than you, there too. We just dropped into the game of duality. So he's pointing out, he's showing us another play in consciousness. Here's the little ping pong. Here comes a thought, and I'm going to smack it with a paddle. But smacking it with the paddle is in the play. See, does the light smack any thoughts? Is it playing ping pong with thoughts in there? Or I know better, one-upmanship on a thought? It just, see, it's unimpacted by any thought because there's no subconscious belief. You know, people are talking about stickiness. And I know the feeling, stickiness, like this won't go away. You're trying to bat those thoughts like with a fly swatter because you just don't want to see them, but think about it. It's like, look at these friggin' flocking thoughts, you know. What we have to do is go to the desire for thought. See, we want them. Then we go, why is this happening? Well, he's taking us down in the elevator. Get in the elevator and Jesus go, okay, show me what's below this and what's below this. Show me where the desire is. And it's so gorgeous to see all of you like typing those in. And I see that I have a desire for X, because the thing about it is that's valuable. That's like gold. To admit the denials. Remember, that's in honesty of God land right there. Someone said, Rita types, I love this. I feel like she didn't quite call it. I have to look it up, Rita, what you said, but you know, the whole honesty of God thing, I love it too. I was telling Renee, this is rock my world. To see that only God's honesty counts. You know, it's not to tell the truth and the whole truth. I'm not saying to go into court and, you know, but the point is that it's all a play in consciousness. So none of it's true. So the ego plays, okay, this is what true. And this is, you're lying to me. And it gets in the argument. See, it's way up here. Jesus, go to honesty of God and see the desire for the play. for the duking it out with ourselves. So we take ourselves into court and we find ourselves guilty. The one goes into court and go, let me prove I've sinned. And then we look so let's look in the light of being to be reminded through the grace of our Lord Jesus. I love it. Appeal to the highest court of the land. That's his court. And so let's check in with the light to see, in the honesty of God and in total happiness, is sin? Are we guilty? This is supreme happiness. No guilt. So now now we get to the bare bones, the guilt-free zone. No guilt, and we look underneath it. We don't spend time in guilt and did I do something wrong? We spend time going, Jesus, show me where I desire this experience. Where do I experience, will you show me? See, he's going to bring it right on up, as all of us are discovering. And then it's such a powerful teaching opportunity with Jesus, because we can all hear it, because nobody in this circle is in this circle unless you hear Jesus. It's just okay. So everyone here can hear, and we know, because we know there's light here. And in order to know there's light here, we must be able to hear the voice for God. So, so all he's saying is, if you argue with somebody about their beliefs, you believe your salvation lies in your belief. See, it's horizontal. It's a horizontal move right into hell, right? Right into the twitch. Okay, so that's the first part of this. Let's see. You then are making the same mistake he is and are making his error real for both of you. See, so we just made error real by getting in an argument. Whenever we're in an argument, we just made error real. And just watching consciousness, we can get really curious and just kind of, Renee and I talk about, that's why we have each other, just to watch the glory of how this stuff spins. It'll spin out into a mushroom cloud. But then we join, right? So with that focus of, see that you're light, ask me to find that denial, give a miracle. See, that's honesty of God. It's asking for the miracle is ceasing to deny. And let it be erased in the manner in which we never have to experience that again. We don't have to go back or up, because what happens when we don't look, it's like a Ferris wheel. And then, we feel relief. Like that's the ego, when you don't look and it screams and then you back off, and it's kind of like a relief when you back off. But you just fed the rabid dog. So then it's going to kind of go underground, and we ride that Ferris wheel and it seems really great for a while. And then that Ferris wheel comes back around. It's going to appear, it pops up somewhere in our experience. No escape. No escape. Okay, so that's our first part. Recognize what does not matter. If you or your brothers ask you for something outrageous, do it because it does not matter. Now, this is the example of this is really good in, is it Spiritual Warrior? Oh, what's that called? Do you know this movie? Can't remember. It's with Nick Nolte. Anyway, I'll just tell the story. So, Peaceful Warrior. Okay, so it's a book too. Someone had this experience and he meets like this guru. Okay, so, and he rocked his world, right? He's pointing to his divine nature. He was a gymnast, and he was just taking him, to tap into all that is, into super consciousness, all of consciousness, all of the totality of all that is. So it was like a wake-up call. So they're walking down the street and the peaceful warrior, so up come these these thugs, and I think they might have taken his watch or something. And then the peaceful warrior guy goes, "Give him your coat." And he goes, well, what are you talking about? And it's really to look deeply at where we're attached in the mind. Where is that identity in the mind? It's like Ramana Maharshi. I think I told the story before that's so beautiful, where people broke into the ashram and they were stealing money and they hit him on the leg and he puts his other leg out and go hit that because he's or something like that. I might have discombobulated it, but the point is to really see where there's an objection, see, to what's happening in form. Where are we identified with something happening in form and making it real? Where are we making that real? So that's why also going a couple of things in that. One is we have the power of joining to see what's true. First of all, we have the power of asking Jesus because we can hear him. And what he tells us to do is not identified with anything. So if a brother starts to ask us to do something, one, we see what our reaction is to it and see where the contraction is and ask for a miracle very quickly. And in community, that happens where you have one leading and one following, and it can feel really absurd, but you just say yes because you're in the trust. So you say, yes, it's in the trust with it. But again, if we're not sure, then join. We can join with the brother and hear it, because we'll hear it, even if it's wild. You'll be heard. If there's a commitment, I find myself saying all kinds of things I would have not conceived of. Oh, sure, go sell your car, fine. But now I know that there's no harm. I know it serves the whole. So that's what he's trying to unwind us from, our attachments to things. So maybe somebody will come up and give him my coat. I always ask Jesus. If Jesus tells me to give it to them, they're getting it. That's basically how I move. You know, refuse and your opposition establishes that it matter to you. It is only you, therefore, who have made the request outrageous. That's what he wants us to see. First of all, we created the scenario. It was a desired experience for someone to show up and ask us something for something. So he's saying, it's a way of saying, let go. Why would you insist on denying him? For to do so is deny yourself and impoverish both. So this is where guidance is all and absolutely important. Because at times it may be good, like walking down the street and a brother asks for money. It may be part of your guidance actually to say no too, as well. And the reason for that is that sometimes when we're giving money out, there's a belief below the subconscious mind that there's a being out there in need, see it, that needs something, that's impoverished, and that we are the ones that can do something for them, quote unquote. So it really is, in every case like this, it's guidance. Poverty is of the ego and never of God. So the generosity he's talking about is generosity of spirit in every case, and to ask for guidance, actually. No outrages can be made of one who recognizes what is valuable and wants to accept nothing else other than valuable. So this is a really great thing to look at, to see where we're holding on to ideas, some ideas better than other ideas. It's good for me. I'm really happy to see this. Jesus, will you show me any areas where I'm in impoverishment, where someone might have asked me for something, and where I was just desired an experience of making it real and feeling impoverished. So again, it goes back to, in every case, like for me now, it's just Jesus. What do I do? See, when you're surrendered to spirit, he'll just know in which cases what's most helpful, because there's such a commitment to serving the whole and not being attached to things in form. Or now this came up relative to, again, I was talking about sexuality, and if you know, a husband or one spouse, this is a common play within consciousness in physical relationships. One wants it and the other doesn't. I mean, if everyone's here, undoubtedly probably been in a relationship, I can't really say, but his experience is probably high probability. What do you do? Well, since we can hear Jesus, we can go up. If we're not sure we can hear Jesus, we can join. But we're only looking at always supreme happiness and following guidance in every case. So all Jesus said, and I can hear him on this with respect to sexuality, is he would not rule out abstinence. So then we get to look at, it's just to look at it. Do you see? We're just looking at our reactions when we say in a relationship that one would abstain. Just feel the energy. It's like, oh my, or to look at ideas of loss. Do you see? Or look at ideas that it would cause a problem in the relationship. See that there's so much fruit there, spending time with spirit, just looking at all the ideas of sacrifice and loss around physical, sexual activity. That's where all the fruit is. It's just see, where's our mind? You know, where are we abdicating creative power to anything? It could be sex, it could be money, it could be anything appearing in consciousness. So this is just, that happens to be a deep look. Rituals can be helpful, but there is with ritualized behavior, a risk of enforcing error because the boundary or prohibition placed on the form above the actual experience of universal love. So infinite light is here. Nothing that has ever happened or will ever happen in form will ever change universal love. In the light of divine being, we can see nothing changes universal love. Jesus is, and Jesus denies nothing. So the light, the consciousness is played for millennia, and physical attraction between bodies have played for millennia. It's just that he's pointing to look at where consciousness plays with bodies joining and follow guidance. That's all. You know, someone wrote just this beautiful thing saying how they realized that if they follow guidance, that they were sacrificing guidance, and then they see that it's not sacrificing guidance. So just follow guidance in this regard for what's most helpful. Jesus is just offering the quick way is to look at where the charge is around what's really happening in physical relationships, how much that whole dynamic and the play of consciousness around bodies joining, just to look at it directly with him. That's all. and just see how much play there is in that, how much decorating of bodies, how much energy, how much time, how much fantasy time is spent in that. You know, you're thinking about the next encounter and will that one be better than the one before? And you just it's just starting to notice, we're just observing the play in consciousness around this physical activity. We're looking at the play in consciousness of everything. When somebody comes up and asks us something, do we get in that fight? Do we get in that argument? Do we hold a position? Do we make one right or one wrong? Because as soon as we're in the argument, we're out of the light. And we will suffer. See, that's the whole, he's trying to save time and suffering. And he's going, here are the ways. Here are some of the greatest sources of suffering and denial of divinity that exists within consciousness. So look deeply with me. You know, these are the plays in consciousness where we'll feel guilt. So that's all. He's just saying, okay, look. And then we can just see, okay, now where am I holding on to a piece of personal identity? Where don't I want to look? That's the most fruitful place, is the place we don't want to go. Often. Well, it is. Let me ask Jesus. In the light of divine being, the place that we really, really, really don't want to look, is that the most fruitful? See, because the ego is going to come in, it's going to put a little cap. It's going to go, okay, now it's okay to look at this, but whatever you do, don't make me look at money. Or, you know, these are the little things, little scraps, money, sex, you know, there's certain areas that the ego is going to, you know, it's like a stronghold where the domain of personal identity is protected. So we're just open to looking and just see, okay, Jesus, if this is true and my one goal is God, we'll just ask, if my one goal is God, is it fruitful to look deeply at physical relationships? And just see what the light says. Is that a fast means, looking at that directly, fast means for transcending personal identity, transcending suffering, and hear what the light says. Is looking at beliefs around money a beneficial, powerful place to look and see what the light says? See, because the light knows where the bones are buried. Like I say, Jesus knows where those bones are buried. But, you know, we have traded, I can see it, you know, the play of consciousness, to trade all that in just to have a fun or have some fantasies we were talking about earlier. I could see that, you know, wanting to have, like, read romance novels and, you know, to be in that fantasy of being rescued. See, that the belief that salvation comes through, you know, but you see the play in consciousness, you know, you see it in fairy tales. The guy rides in on his white horse and, you know, trying to have union. It's just a symbol. Males and females coming together is a symbol within consciousness of the desire to join, to reunify with the Father. But if we mistake it for what it is, the symbol, and then use it horizontally, it'll, like he says, we have to give over every relationship to a holy relationship. As he told Helen, I think there was some attraction between her and some male that she was arguing with. And he was talking about how that argument kind of sparks the sexual tension. And he said, if you turn over all these relationships to me, I'll show you how to convert it. And we felt this before around beings. You know, we can feel like that sexual tension or that attraction. He says, I will convert that if you turn it to a holy relationship I'll turn it into impersonal miracle working. So we just kind of give this over to him and let him help us work through what's true in any kind of relationship, regardless of what being we're with. We're always in like that miracle, looking for the miracle mode. Because the ego is going to always look for follow the spirit and feel sacrifice mode. So Jesus has given us a brand new function. He's going, no, see that you're always looking for light. Do you see how a miracle is always looking for light? It's leading with the light out front. Infinite light out front is to be looking for a miracle. And even before the Course in Miracles that I knew anything about it, I could see that in play. And if we look at areas in our life when we were really, really happy, we were focusing on light. Like going into that prison, I talked about going into prison, like I was happy all the time in there. Because the mind was always looking for that miracle, constantly. And as soon as we stopped looking for a miracle, we are... Yeah. Why was I happy? Because the mind was focused on the miracle and light all the time. Every time I don't know, it was something about it. It was spirit guided assignment. I was telling Renee, it was very interesting. I went down to, got in the jacuzzi and where I have many discussions with Jesus in the it's not a jacuzzi, it's just really a hot tub, but I was sitting in there and I go, so I can still feel in here, checking in with them on what sin is really, He says you're in guidance. You can't sin when you're in guidance. Sin is denial of guidance. It's a desire to deny ourselves divinity. That's like, oh, right. Desire for choice is sin. So that's where every argument is the desire for choice. I want a choice. See the I? Does the light of divine being choose in our direct experience? Is it in there choosing? It just is. And what the ego will hold dear is the choice, is the desire for experience of choice. I was even talking to him about pain, desire for choice. Is underneath all the pain is a desire for choice. That's why he has choose again. The poster child, we're the poster children for choose again. So we can see that it's not true and see where we're holding on to little pieces of personal identity that where we're going to suffer. And thankfully we have each other to join with and to, just be so encouraging. It's just so inspiring to be with a group that's so devoted to this looking, and that it can be fun. It doesn't have to be a miserable thing. Let's just ask Jesus, does waking up to true identity have to be unhappy? Does it have to be miserable? Does it have to be painful? Does the light say any of those things about it? Renee and I were talking about, we're just going to have a session just on all the beliefs that make waking up difficult. All the beliefs we have for a desired experience to make it really difficult to wake up to true identity. Because it's a desire for the storyline of someone who has a difficult time awakening. And if you notice in consciousness, just observe it. We just observe without judging. You're going to see all kinds of stories about how hard it is to wake up. Because we're going to bring into those witnesses, right? And it's horrible. But without admitting that's desired experience, do you see how much time is invested in consciousness with playing the game? It's of when we see that the light's here. But then all the stories that fly on Facebook, Do you see how, it's a story and here's another. There's stories that can be helpful. That's why I asked Jesus before I tell any story, is it okay to talk about this story so that the story is in full purpose and service to the whole and that there's no personal identity around it? Do you see? Is it in guidance to tell this story? So if it's in guidance, by all means, put it out on Facebook because it's your function, right? We each have a function. It may be that. But we can just watch the stories about, this happened in spiritual awakening, then that happened, then this happened, and this happened, and this, and it becomes who's awake? Jesus wants us focused on the light and perfect supreme happiness. Does supreme happiness and infinite light even have a story? Can we find a story in there? So what's so great about this group, everyone's so focused on, they're just really, it's like, it's the distillation down to what's most valuable. I felt this way. Jesus showed me this. I saw my desire. And then we just move through it. Do you see? It doesn't linger. It's in service to the whole because we can see that and go, man, we can move through this stuff quick. We don't have to spend any time other than what's absolutely helpful for seeing through the delusion together. And then we just celebrate the happiness that we're all getting by through following the light. The only thing that really matters in this world, infinite, unchanging being. Go for God. This is the Supreme Happiness Club. Thank you. I'm happy for membership with all of you. Amen.